SAM stands for Stormwater Action Monitoring. It's a collaborative regional stormwater monitoring program that's funded by more than 90 Western Washington cities and counties, the ports of Seattle and Tacoma, and the Washington State Department of Transportation. SAM has one simple goal: to improve stormwater management. SAM conducts studies which provide a clearer picture of the conditions of receiving waters in the Puget Sound area.
So the study, we sampled about 100 sites across Puget Sound, and about half of those were in urban growth areas and the other half were outside of urban growth areas. And those were chosen so that we could have like a spread of variability in what kind of land use those streams were in. So the sites were picked randomly to ensure that we had a representative sample across Puget Sound, because it's not possible to sample all small streams in Puget Sound. So we sample a smaller proportion, and then during the data analysis phase, we can then extrapolate what we saw at the smaller number of sites to the larger Puget Sound. So one of the things that we know is that the landscape features also can control what's happening in a stream as far as what's getting delivered to a stream. So at the USGS, we led the GIS analysis of all the watersheds that were sampled to look at things like what's the percent urban cover, what's the percent forested, how much, if there's any point sources and things like that, to help to relate what we're seeing on the landscape to what we're seeing in the stream. So things like canopy cover, stream slope, things like that.
The stormwater problem has been well understood for decades, but before SAM, we did not have a monitoring program to objectively measure stormwater quality at the regional scale.
We use mussels as an indicator species for contamination in the nearshore of Puget Sound. We use mussels because they're little aquatic vacuum cleaners. They suck up food and the contaminants in the food and then integrate them into their tissues over time. So they, integrate contamination over time. So we take mussels from Penn Cove, from an aquaculture source. We put them in little bags, and we have citizen science volunteers in Puget Sound deploy them in anti-predator cages into the Puget Sound nearshore. They stay there for about 3 months, eating and integrating contaminants, and then we have the volunteers remove them in early spring usually, and then all of the mussels are brought back to our laboratory in Olympia, where we process them. We basically shuck them out of their shells, put them into little jars, grind them up together, and then send those out for analysis in a laboratory, in 2 laboratories in Seattle. One laboratory does organic chemistry, so these are the pollutants that come in from Puget Sound from different sources, that man-made sources, and then we also look at metals.
These studies also help us understand if water conditions across the region are getting better or worse. We didn't know if our collective management approaches were reversing past damage to receiving waters and preventing new impairments. In streams, watershed canopy cover explained most of the health of benthic invertebrate communities, even more so than riparian canopy, the urban development coverage in the watershed, or pollutant concentrations in the sediment.
We were able to determine that about 80% of the streams within urban growth areas were in poor biological condition based on our aquatic insect measurements. And that's something we have statistical confidence bounds on. And as we move forward with this program, then we can track that change over time.
So the information that we're providing will help show stormwater managers whether or not the actions that they're using for stormwater improvements are actually having an effect in the nearshore. So we're going to be able to tell over time whether or not the stormwater management actions are having an effect in terms of the nearshore contamination.